Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Sunday Sessions, 20th of December, the day before Yule in 2020. Well, thank you all for joining me. Those of you who are on board, it's lovely to join because there's a lot of events on this afternoon online. And this is our weekly time of exploring nature-centered folklore, connecting this within your favorite sanctuary space and expressing your inspired visions from your sanctuary through your poetry, writing, art, craft, performance, and any problem solving. Now, today's Sunday session is Yule Log Tales, and there's a picture of that for the solstice time of turning the darkness into light. Now, I'm going to be sharing stories and inspirations featuring the Dagda, the Doida, and the three hags, our solstice time of hope, blessing our right, I think we're back on now. Sorry, this happened to us last week, didn't it? Anyway, there's Susan Farrell for you there, and she's got a lovely book there, you see, My Home Place Inheritance. So we'll be talking about that. We got lovely Maura Barrett. She's been on and she's done some poems for us in the past, and she's in the green room right now. And then we've got, at the last minute, Fergus Hogan, who a beautiful poet, and he posted a lovely Yule midwinter poem on Facebook. So I got hold of him. Please, you must perform that, because I saw him perform it a few years ago in an event in Waterford. Beautiful poem. So we'll have that as well. So let's have a quick look who's with us at the moment. Claire, I know she's here. She's actually out in the garden here, and I was going to be broadcasting this in the garden, but the internet was weak out there because the weather's actually lovely out there at the moment. So who else we got? Donna's here. Lovely. Happy solstice, Donna, New Mexico. And we've got Monica in Pennsylvania. Thanks for being on board here. And Lisa and Blessed Jewel from Glastonbury. So we're privileged there. Lovely. Angle, and there's Keith. I saw his name come up somewhere. He tends to have connections with Glastonbury, but there he is. Solstice greetings from Wales. So thank you all, and thank you everybody else who's come on board. So I better get moving here. Now, the Doida, the Dagda, and the three hags. Now, I've probably told you all kinds of variations of this in Sunday sessions this year, but this is really the time to tell this story. And I probably know at least 8 different versions of this, of the local Morrigan and Doida Dagda mating stories. That's just 8 local stories. So I'm going to spend a few minutes sharing my favorite one. And but there's another version that I like. And it's because the location is the Morrigan or Morrigu being of one of 9 sisters. And there is actually a story, rather than crows, that actually links her to swans. And this is actually in the Unshin, because there is a story there of her washing being the washer of the Ford, washing the bloody clothes, actually with her legs astride in the Unshin there. Anyway, the version I like best is it starts as a local well. Oh, and there's another one of the Unshin here. That's a wide part of it. I think that's a beautiful part. And I have to show you this one because Robin Williamson's in it. You see him he's kind of at the back there. And he didn't believe that Moitura actually existed. He thought it was just a mystical place. Fergus has arrived. Thanks. Hi, Fergus. And so I said, come on, let's have a day's workshop. And I'm going to take you around Moitura because one of his albums is the Deeds of the Tuatha De Danann. And here we are on the bridge, possibly near the estuary, possibly at the point where one of the stories of the Morrigan, the Morrigu, actually having her legs stretched. And the swans are just below the bridge there. So I had to show that one. Excuse me. So on to the version I like, because it starts at the local well near here, near Carracrory. It's less than 2 miles away. But I'm going to start with the Cailleach Caves, which is a hill with many caves. Here we go. And those caves were formed by the sea, believe it or not. And pounded through, the water went through the caves, bang, 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 because this was the sea forming after the Ice Age was melting thousands of years ago, maybe 1 million years ago, I don't know. But it said the water pounded through it, and it went through and through and went right through to the other world, and it awoke what the locals call the White Hag in the other world. And some call the hag, some of you there will call the hag the Cailleach, or some people say Cailleach. It's different pronunciations wherever you are, even the Inner and Outer Hebrides. Inner Hebrides is the Cailleach, Outer Hebrides is the Cailleach, so even variations like that. But the Cailleach rose out, up, like I was showing on that picture there, if the mouse doesn't stick. Up and up and up, and the water filled the womb in the other world here, and it pushed up that hill, as I mentioned there. And her womb inside, let's go through the name. Morna Coracuen is the one I love. So you got more for the large and into infinity. The Corrie, the vessel, which can be a cauldron, it can be a valley, it can be the hollow inside a mountain or a hill. And then they got the Cwn, which is the place of the quiet weaving. So together the Morna Coracuen, and say that quickly, and what do you come up with? Morna Coracuen, Morgan. That's the way I put it. Anyway, there's the Morrigu, Morriku, the Infinite Guardian Queen. And we have the Morrigu, which is the Infinite Garden Queen that's featured in W.M. Hennessy's War Goddess book. There's an old thing, because it came out in 1870, so there's a cover from that. Now, you may know her better, of course, as I say, as the Morrigan. So let's get up a banner of all the different spellings that I've just sort of muttered and grumbled. There you go. There they all are. And take your pick. But I'm going to bring on some other characters in this tale. Dagda. We got to bring on Dagda, don't we? And there's a bit of Dagda, I think. Yeah, there we go. And he's just known very much as the good god of the Tuatha De Danann. I first learned of him in the Scottish Highlands. Let's see if I can get it. In the Scottish Highlands, as the servant of the Doida, a hag who lived in the Berg. And that Berg is the mountain there. It's on the Isle of Mull. And it's part of the Erigale. Let's get up another banner to give you some spellings. There you go, the Erigale, Argyll. Again, if you say Erigale in the Scottish accent fast, you get to the Argyll. And that is, I actually lived there. We actually, when we went, lived on Mull, see where the phone box is, just up there, a bit further up. We actually had a mobile home until we got a cottage. We were there for a few months. So what a view. So that's where I kind of got associated very much with the Doida. I think I've got another picture. Here it is. This is up close, taken from a small boat on Loch Screeden there. But a womb, their Doida's womb, it spurted the waterfalls, as you can see, from the berg. And it said that she would come out through the waterfalls and dance with passing souls on the sea there. So, as I say, shortened Doida is said he was known in that area in the Hebrides as the servant of the Doida. And that seems to have shortened to become the Doida. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, that over in Ireland, Doida became Dagda. But how that came about is really another story. And obviously it's very controversial with Irish storytellers. So Doida, the good god of the Tuatha Dé Danann, good god because of the harvest. And he carried his cauldron. Let's get some, there we go, got a cauldron pick there. Big man, there's no harp there, he's just got that club and the cauldron in that picture. But nobody went hungry. Everybody met, he got food, and this was from the harvest. So it never emptied, it just kept refilling. But Doida is also, we know him for carrying a harp. The harp known as the Withna. And I haven't got any pictures of the Withna. It had 4 corners on it. And it said that the 4 corners conducted the 4 seasons of the year. So that's the nearest I could get to the sort of thing he could have that you could put into the wind and it'd be like a kind of a wind harp. So have I got something? Apparently I got something else to show you on that. Have I given you the different things? Here's the different Doida, if I can, come on. There you go. There's the different spellings of what we're talking about. Doida, Dagda, Dagda, 2 different spellings. So with his Withna, and that again has lots of different pronunciations. That's my favorite name. I just love it. It's almost like, sounds like the wind going through it. Withna. Withna is some people say, but I like the Withna with it. And with that, he enchanted people. And he, let's get on to the picture. And with the 3 strains of enchantment. I love this artist impression. Although it's stone, the 3 strains. There was the getting up. This is what I'm going to be explaining to you. I've got lots of banners for this, don't I? Not the Dagda. Let's try the next one. Let's try this one. Oh, here's the Withna if you want the spelling. Dagda's harp, but Withna there. And but here we go. The 3 strains. We have the Goitri, the enchantment of sorrow, melancholy, the underworld. And then Jontri, the enchantment of the joy, dancing, and the light. And the Sontri being the enchantment of the dreaming. And I think I've got a lovely artist impression of Sontri here. I love this one, if I can get it. There we go. There's a Sontri with the dreaming there. Okay. Dreaming, transition, changing the realm from, it's that realm sitting between the light and the dark anyway. Now there's a few stories about people stealing. Oh, that's the one I wanted, yes. That's the one of the Sontri, if I can knock the banner out. There we go. We have the Sontri there. But anyway, there's a few stories about people trying to steal Dagda's harp and his cauldron of plenty. And he also carried, you see the club there, to ward off the marauders who attempted to steal that. Right, I'm getting my other pictures laid out. Now, this Dagda story, important today, on this day just before the moment of solstice. And this story commences at Sawan, a time when the Doida was quite exhausted. Annually, he's quite exhausted at this time from carrying and serving from that cauldron of plenty. It's almost like the Santa Claus of the food pot, isn't it? But he traveled to a spring well. And as I say, it is near here. I should have a nice spring well picture for you nearby. This is it. This is just it's a lovely spring well. It bubbles. It's clean water all year round. And it's where he always aimed for. It's where he could drink the water and revive his weakened spirit and energy so that he could continue to serve the people their food through the winter. But just after 1 as Doida approached the well to revive himself and his weakness, there were three, and there's always three, isn't there? There was three dark cloaked women crouched over the well, and they were bubbling. The well was bubbling, and they were washing clothes. And Doida looked at himself, and he noticed that he was shocked because he was naked. These women were actually washing his clothes, and though it doesn't show in the picture, I've got something related more in the picture, but they were covered in blood. So after a conversation, I'm actually going to skip because it's a large section of the story, it was revealed to the Doida that these three women were known as the Marigna, and the human incarnation of the Morna Coracue, the Moricu, the Moriga, Morrigan. I gave you spellings a bit earlier of that. But their own names, I better pull up the banner because there can be variations on this. There we go. These are the three names. The Bev, the rock, Maka, the fire, and Fee, or Fey, the water, sometimes Nemen. But I like Fee best of all, I think, for pretty obvious reasons. I knew some Fees. They were a traveller family up in Sutherland in Scotland, and they were blonde. They were very blonde, the whole of them. And the conversation immediately, it went into divination and a kind of clairvoyance. They'd always tell you something about you as you were approaching, something that was about to happen. They were sort of like natural prophecy people, fortune tellers. Anyway, I better move on. And they told the Doida, the Dagda, that this year it was fatal for him. And as his bravery was actually really sleeping away, his fertility spirit that created the harvest and abundance had left his body. And they told the Doida it's time for him to ride to Tirnanog to renew his youth there forever. But if he wanted to stay in this earth realm and return his stamina and bravery and return the fertility spirit to him so he could create harvest and abundance, he's got to follow the three hags of the Marigna through the caves into the hill. And I love this one. I call this picture the Destiny Clone. There we go, Destiny's Clone. There we go. If you're into sort of pop music, you'll know why I've used that one. Anyway, they go through the caves. I like this entering the caves picture here. There's a river running through that one. And actually, if you go through that particular cave, not many people do, and you look through the gap, you actually see a pool of water as if it's the loch that I'm going to be talking about. Anyway, before they left for the well, another hag goddess turned up, Gronya. This is an artist's impression. She appeared, named as the goddess that ripened the harvest. She also had a cauldron, and she filled it up from Doida's, Dagda's pots, so she could continue to feed the people, animals, and birds throughout the winter. Now, as Doida entered I keep calling him Doida, it's just a habit, sorry if you prefer the Dagda. The human forms of Bev, Maka, and Fee, they became the rock and the pool of the lake, the Loch Lake in the middle of the hill in Cailleach there. And Doida was now in the Morna Coracue womb of the Cailleach, or Cailleach if you prefer that one. And he still had his cauldron and harp and club, and nobody was going to take any of those away from him. Now, a little bit about the loch there, the Onyushki Shiga, if you can catch that. Water of the She. There's wonderful stories of how it got there and how each spring the water overflows, how 4 rivers were originally created to fertilize Ireland. But these are stories I'm going to leave for the Yule Tales that'll be in a couple of months. And that'll include the births of Breed and Coran as well. Anyway, the Doida Dagda stayed there, and by the loch, he just bathed and played his Withna harp, in case you haven't got that's his name for the harp, if you haven't got the drift of that. And each day the water was getting warmer. The Doida had no idea about days or night, and he had no desire to return to the outside with the oncoming winter. He was relaxed there. He just loved being there. Is this something of relevance? Yeah, that's his pot. Anyway, I've got that picture, and for some reason, we'll find out why in a minute. But the voices of the Marigna asked him to start adding, there it is, adding more of his porridgey stuff in his pot from his cauldron, put it into the water, and then the more he put in, it bubbled away, and it gave off light. The pool gave off light, and he stirred it with his club. And when he bathed during the days after adding from his cauldron, each time he bathed, he sensed a feeling of feeling closer, connected to the water. And each day it was actually getting warmer too. And the warmth was created from the fire in the water that I have been told of is called the phylactery. There we go. That's my sort of artist's impression, my own one of the phylactery. I'm going to try and get some banners because this is going to be important. I'm going to try and explain something to you here. Because you might be familiar with the Fullock flower. If I can just pull this up, the Fullock flower pictures. There we go. There's one here, I think. And these are talked of as being a kind of a cooking vessel. You see the square thing there, and there's the well next to it. And it was said that they put hot stones into the water. The water would get hot, and they would put meat in it, and the meat will be cooked. My own attitude to that is, damn it, I think I'd put it on a spit. And because of all that fire and material used to heat the stones in the first place, just get the thing cooked. But there's another story to this that around this time, and it dawned on me when I saw a report a couple of years ago, that Eastern Europeans are getting concerned because this is the time of year when there's natural yeast in the air. And they do a lot of brewing at this time, cider mainly, some ale. But this is the time of the making of that. And there's kind of a reliance on that, and there's reliance on making a bit of fire in order to do it. So this is their time of brewing. And I think that's where you get the link with breeder and brewing. It kind of got twisted with that. So that's my thought on that. And this is kind of imitating the idea of the phylactery in the middle. It's the heat, it's the brewing, and this is exactly, I think, what was happening to the dagda in the center there, if that kind of makes sense to you there. Okay, I'm just switching stuff around here. Got to move on pretty quickly here. Whoops, I don't know why that's come up. Right, okay, pictures. There we go. I've got more photos for you. So back to the dagda. Each day the lark, the Unwishka Shigo, it was warming with the added gruel. From his cauldron, it was fermenting, it was brewing. And this point of solstice, which we know is going to be tomorrow here, it came up to almost boiling point. And as he was bathing then, he realized he was at total union with the water. And the grand conception happened. The conception with the Cailleach inside her more, and the Coracuan, the Moricu, the Morigru, the Morrigan, again, whatever is your favorite. Now, before I go, that is pretty much the completion of that, the grand conception. And you'll have to wait until Imbolc for me to continue what happened after that conception. But before I go, I'm going to quickly add another version. As I say, I know 8 of them from around here. Of the Morrigan Dagda Matin, and this is very short form. And you're probably aware of the Second Battle of Moitura, said to be fought over 3 days and so on. And well, I think it was over 3 months, not 3 days. So on to Imbolc, we got 3 months. And this story of the Second Battle of Moitura, as it's told, I think is very symbolic. But in this story, Dagda had become weak, as the other stories. He had become enslaved by the Fomorians, the advancing Fomorians. And his slavery was to help them build a new court for the High King being transferred from Tara to right here in County Sligo. Now, during the second month of the battle, he went to the water at the river in Shin, And there was a Morrigan with the legs astride, but she's not got the legs astride here. But again, she was on the bank washing his bloody clothes. And I think I got another one that was quite nice. There you go. That's an artist image of him. She's actually bathing herself there. But anyway, I thought that was pretty neat and to throw that in as well. So similar proposition. And it's funny, it's always the women at solstice that are making the propositions. Take a note of that. And sleep with her a while, his stamina and bravery would return, and he would join in the battle on Second Battle of Moytura to help them win the day against the Fomorians. Well, it did work. And after being probably a month, I suppose, they say a night in the stories, I say a month. But he was at a new peak of stamina, new man, and off to Moytura he went. And there was a battalion on the east side, because the battle was on the west side, and they were fast asleep on the edge of the hill, sleep nowhere. There was even a battle going on. And he rose them up and said, come on, there's a battle. And of course, this story is told of the Bronze Age. So they're bronze swords, they say swords, but they were short daggers. They just had a way of working with their shields and the daggers. And they said that they fought naked. Fighting in January naked, brave people. But as the Dagda and the battalion, they enter the battlefield, Dagda full of his new spirits and his new stamina, and Janet, they're out naked, brave in January, and they were on the battlefield, and soon as the Fomorians saw them, the Fomorians turned around and they ran away, because after his time with the Morrigan, the Dagda had the biggest dagger of them all. That's as much as I'm going to say about that one. So what are you saying at the moment before we move on? What a beautiful spring well it is. I wish I could say more. I will say more about that another time. Shell, happy solstice to you. Good morning, all the faithful, says Sherry. Lisa Ann, blessed Yule from Glastonbury. Oh, we've, hello, I think I've covered all of the rest of you. Lovely, thank you for being here. This is absolutely delightful, fantastic. Right, I got to move on very quickly. Now, the Sunday sessions, I call it Yule Log Tales. And really, I suppose I'm not really going to talk that much about Yule logs. I've got one little bit. But the running theme is indeed the transition from the old annual cycle into the new one, which is the burning of a Yule log. So let's get a Yule log picture up, just to set the scene here. There we go. There's someone, I think, dragging a Yule log there. And let's get into, right, that's it, Yule log. So the annual cycle with the Yule log, and certainly symbolic. The Yule log tradition is Norse. I kind of like this one because the one thing to say about the Yule log, and I couldn't find a picture of it, is the Yule log is actually wrapped up in birch twigs, and it's woven around it because oak doesn't take off in the fire very quickly, so it needs kindling, and the birch is spark, so it's a heck of a fire. Anyway, this is a sort of decorated Yule log. You might be doing something like that. But the Yule log itself, am I ahead of myself here? Don't think so. Yes, I am. I'm sort of... Right, the tradition is Norse anyway. And from a Nordic word, Yule, which, with a J, J-O-L, Yule. Maybe that's why the Yule got to South USA, I don't know. But the Saxons turned this around to become Jol, J-E-O-L, Jol, meaning Christmas Day, a season of hunting, because they're not in the gardens, they're not growing. And I assume that's where our word jolly, did our word jolly come from, the J-O-L, Yule, Yol? Up to you to think on that one. Let's get some more logs going here. And it will take a whole Sunday session to tell you Yule log stories. And I better move on. I'm eager to get the guests on. But the womb of Freya seems to be in all the Yule log stories coming up to solstice. Freya is said to be mourning the cold because The embers in her womb are just there. They're lifeless. And she is said to call out for the need of a good fiery log. Let's get her a good fiery log on board. There we go. To reignite her embers. She was calling for a long log, a log that would burn for hours and hours. Perhaps she needed Dagda. Anyway, but Odin came along and served her well. That's what I heard anyway. But a lot of Norse myth followers said, well, Odin's too busy continually fighting Zeus and Thor, so he hasn't got time to go mating. But I was told, yes, he mated the Yule and served Freya. Anyway, as I understand it, the Yule log is the log of Odin. That's the way I'm told. And it's burnt in the hearth for, let's get it burning in the hearth here, for 15 days up until Epiphany. And then the traditions reduced to 12 hours. Now believe it's 12 minutes they'll do. And that's still a miracle, I suppose. But the Yule log should be a fallen oak, which used to be kindled, as I say, with the dancing sparks of the birch wood. And then once an oak is ignited, there's just no stopping it. So today, consumerism has entered the traditions. And have I got that right? Yeah. And there's dragged the log. The dragged log is dropped off. Well, it was dropping off presents. I think this is what this log might have been doing. So instead of just being dragged for the fire, it's got to have presents coming out for children to pick up. And I think the whole tradition of presents today really came out of that. So that's as much as I think I better say about Yule logs. But there's one thought, and that is about our emotion of hope at this time. And most of us feel that the solstice and Christmas time is a time of wishes. But I feel it's also a time of healing and fair play for those that are less fortunate around us. And people, especially in Ireland, are very generous at this time of year. But with the politics and health situation around us, I think hope has become a very powerful word for change to something of a more comfortable status for people in situations where they're just full of hope. And to me, hope is about recognizing and even trying to hold on to fragments, those small pleasures in our life, and focus on those rather than tune into the sorrows. There's big issues with that's bringing on sorrows. Obviously, the feeling of virus, politics, it seems hopeless. But if you look around you, there are little fragments of hope, and we can focus on them. And like the current weather forecast here is not for any more rays. We got rays of sunshine, but tomorrow morning, the solstice, it's supposed to be quite cloudy and showery here, but there is still a ray of sunshine in it. And I hope in the morning, the solstice morning, that you are going to wake up with some ray of sunshine. And that ray of sunshine could even be a lovely memory that you know, it's amazing how memories, when you bring them into the prophecy of your present, they transform your life back again, and they're part of you. And you are what you do for the rest of this winter until the blossoms come out in spring. Anyway, I am going to, we're going to start on the guests now. And I'm going to bring up, I didn't bring up a picture earlier because it was the last minute. We're going to have Fergus. Is Fergus there? Yes, Fergus is there. And it's, I think he brought the book out only last month. We'll talk about that. Bit and Cry. And he's going to share a poem with that. So I'm going to grab my headphones so I can actually hear someone. So excuse me a minute as I get the headphones geared in. Otherwise it would have squeaked away. I hope that's okay. So let's bring on Fergus. Hello, Fergus. How you doing?
Hello, John.
Good morning.
Hello.
Nice, good afternoon.
Yeah, John, it's so good to see you looking so well and for sharing such great stories with us. A blessed solstice to you, John, and hello to our good friend Claire too. John,
she's in the garden. She's what?
Yeah, lovely. And John, you'll also know because I've shared this with you that our son, our 16-month old son, his name is Dagda, and you were one of the very first people to begin explaining the meaning of that name to me. So thank you, John.
No, that's very handy. I wonder, is he learning the harp yet?
No, not yet. He does love music, and he's lent me, can you see it? His club. Where are we?
Of course, the first thing a young person will get is the club. That's beautiful.
Thanks, John.
Brilliant.
Thanks, John. John, I have a small poem for the day and the night that's here with us now, the winter solstice, and I might share it with you.
That's the one, yes.
Thank you, brother. Winter solstice. All winter long I search for crystals vibrating, bright as a poem of self-forgiveness. As the sun goes down, I dig through roots of trees, fallen in the silence of solitude, after too many nights left alone, leaning towards the pull of the moon. I gather wind-fallen firewood and a Yule log. I build a fire and light it out of nothing at all. Remember elders gone before me. Stone struck against stone, I lift the sparks in cupped hands like prayers. I breathe flames into bits of silver birch bark, dry moss and twigs. This night, I keep the fire company till the first light of new dawn.
Oh, it's gorgeous to see that again. Another reminder is from Bit and Cry. Am I right? It looks like you've only just brought that out. Is that correct?
It does look like that, John, but I'll tell you, it was this time last year that it was
I
launched.
thought it was November this year. Sorry.
But it got a whole new lease of life through you, John, and other people online. You know, when we were at home, locked in, staying safe. There's been so many people that are as generous like you to allow poets read and storytellers share online. So it's kind of survived its first year, thanks to you, John.
Well, thanks for coming on last minute. And as I say, I'm kind of, as usual, I'm behind on everything. We're going to have to get you again because it's always a treat to get a poem from you. So thanks for that. Too short as usual, but we'll have you again, and have a wonderful solstice there, Fergus. It's lovely. All the best, and all the best to your family and Daddy, your son. Thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you. And we have Margie, who's just come on board, I think. There we go. Hi, Margie. Season's greeting, Dan and Margie. Sherry is saying your poem. It really was from Fergus. I saw him perform that, and it was lovely again to get that. We saw him perform that down in Waterford at a gig, and that was the one poem that really bowled me over at the time. Anyway, we're going to move on to Susan now. Absolutely wonderful, Susan. If I can get the introduction up for her, because we're going to get I had to throw her off too quickly last time she was here, and it looks like I haven't even got her. Anyway, we'll get her to introduce a beautiful book, and I mentioned earlier, where is Susan? I did have a picture of, there we go. We have this lovely My Home Place Inheritance, and it's absolutely gorgeous because what Susan does is this. She goes into storytelling, and I tended to relate to it because it was like my own childhood and going through it. And I think a lot of people reading this, they'll be going back to their childhood. And then all of a sudden, she comes out with a recipe and explains the putting together of it. And you can literally, just by reading the book, smell the food coming out of the book. So let's bring on Susan. Good afternoon, Susan. Lovely to have you again.
Hello, John. How are you doing?
Brilliant. So it's great because last time you came on for a minute. Right, thanks, Susan. Bye. So we got you for a few minutes this time. And you said you'd like to read a bit that was relative to this.
Yeah, I'm going to read the little passage about Christmas. And it's not very long, but my dad's still alive, and he's 95, and talking to him now, I sort of understand why we had a very sort of low-key, quiet Christmas. He told me that when he was a young man, and this is pre-war, Halloween was a bigger deal than Christmas. And I think that has to be a throwback to previous pre-Christian times, and it's, for me, it's explained why we had such a quiet Christmas. But we had one anyway. So I'm going to read this little bit from the book that John has mentioned to you. I'm not offering a recipe at this stage, but it's just to bring us into the season. Usually we didn't have visitors for Christmas. It was more often a low-key affair with stockings in the morning and then Christmas lunch. So the year when Auntie Bessie, dressed in her fur coat, entered our decked-out living room as if she were the queen, was very special. Auntie Bessie stood and smiled at us with her handbag over one arm and a shopping bag full of presents over the other. In her hands, she very carefully held a deep square cake tin. It was her home-baked Christmas cake, weighing half a stone, her contribution to the festivities. My mother carefully took the cake and placed it on the dining table, set out for the occasion in the living room, among the crackers and the good cutlery. She prized off the tight lid, and the Christmas aroma floated out and all around the room, and everyone seemed to take it in and smile. I looked in the tin, down onto a winter wonderland. Peaks of snow, a mini Christmas tree, a snowman with a scarf and a hat, and Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. I put my hand in to test the icing. Hang on, that's for later, said my mum, as Auntie Bessie just smiled. But I was happy. I had found out that the icing had the same consistency as ice, only not freezing cold. Amazing. With the exception of my father, Christmas in our family seemed to be mainly for women and children. For the next to arrive were Auntie Lynn and Nana Wiley, laden with packages and tins. Christmas was about to settle down in proper order. Those parcels were for us kids, and right now I was torn between enjoying the delicious smells coming out of the kitchen and wondering what was in such large packages. We'd definitely have to eat before I was allowed to open them, and there'd be tea before that, perhaps sherry. It took me until I was over 50 to realise that not everyone expects tea when they arrive for Christmas dinner. A distant relative asked me if I was joking when I offered her a cup one Christmas morning in Middle England. No, dear lady, I was not. Finally, it was dinner time. My dad took the enormous foil-covered turkey out of the oven and then made the gravy with pesto and some of the juices from the pan. My mum and my aunt mashed the potatoes and then the carrots and parsnips with plenty of butter and a bit of milk. Then we drained the sprouts. They plated the veg in the kitchen and we all squeezed around the table with our steaming plates in front of us, waiting for Dad to carve the turkey. We pulled our crackers, ate our dinner in silly paper hats, and finally it was time to open our presents. My job was to hand them out because I could read. Big baby dolls kitted out in hand-knitted clothes for me and my sister, a trike for my brother, pyjamas, slippers and socks for all. Auntie Bessie got us annuals, the Beano for me, Disney for my sister, and Andy Pandy for my brother. Aunt Lynn got a large box of milk tray and Auntie Bessie a large black magic, very large, the size of a tea tray, from someone called Santa. The milk tray had a Canadian snow scene on the lid. The black magic had an elaborately tied red ribbon at a jaunty angle, set off against the black packaging, tasteful and elegant, just like Auntie Bessie. They would need help with the contents, so we helped. I ended the day cozied up under an eiderdown quilt, 2 wool blankets, and carefully ironed cotton sheets, cuddled up to my baby doll, both of us in our new jammies, a hot water bottle at my feet, and some black magic under my pillow, in case I needed some magic in the middle of the night, which of course I would.
Ah, great. Thanks very much for that, Susan. And we didn't get into any recipes. What are you cooking up for solstice yourself?
Oh, this morning, I decanted. I have all sorts of drinks bubbling away at the minute. I have elderflower champagne from the summer. I have cassis made from black currants. I have mead.
Oh, great.
And have got the ginger beer plant going as well. So I'm going to have a jolly 21st.
Well, it was lovely to have you, and absolutely fabulous. Have a wonderful solstice and through Christmas, and every success last year. I'm going to put a link up for your book. As Susan was saying in her Facebook, it's sold out at Amazon, but you can get it from the publishers. Well worth it. It's a beautiful read. It'll bring back a lot of memories. So thank you very much, Susan. That was Susan Farrell, and that's the book there, My Home Place, Inheritance, and comments there. I'm going backwards because Claire absolutely loved Fergus's poem there, and I didn't get that out quick enough, so thanks. So happy little son Dagda. There you go, from Claire. And Sherry story, she loved Susan. I know she did last time, and even Claire's enjoyed Susan as well. The childhood, yeah, that's what I was saying. Typical. It brings back lots of memories. It's a lovely read, very easy read, very well written. And as I say this, we better move on. I was going to talk about greenery, but I did talk about it a couple of weeks ago. But I whizzed because this is great time during December traditions. Green coming into our home. So there's a quick refresher for you. And it's part of your tradition some way. So we have the tree. That's probably already up and blessed already. Symbol of the tree of life, regenerating life. And then you get hanging your baubles from it. Baubles representing apples and the winter nutrition of apples. And some people slice them and hang them. Wonderful. And then on top of that, your chocolate coins. And I talked about a little bit of a sinister tradition, but the kids love grabbing them. And the presents below the tree, of course, help us to survive winter. The tree to bring us. Sometimes people say the spirits of our ancestors come in with a tree that we bring in, and we're warming up our ancestors' spirits by the fires. And some say that the fairies in the tree are brought in to warm them up in the tree as well. Lovely little stories around that. And then we have the circles of wreaths, starting with willow, maybe hazel. And we can do that before solstice. We can bring them in the home. But holly, ivy, and mistletoe in the maybe, lavender and rosemary as well to protect us. Hanging on the door there to remind us that we're in a cycle. It's not a beginning or end. It's not the start of a new year. We're just in a cycle. And different folklore. There's different folklore and rules, whatever, about what we can bring in the home. And there's a lot of churches still forbid greenery coming into our home. And there's one or two churches now and encouraging it and even bringing it into the churches. So we have the holly, ivy, and mistletoe. There's some holly there. They all have different versions of folklore. And either of them are hung outside. Some say the mistletoe's there to prevent damage from thunder and lightning. Some say that the ivy is there because, being a female thing, there's a sort of a patriarchal thing that if you bring the ivy in, then the woman in the house becomes the leader, the decision maker for the year. So poor ivy is left on the door. But there's this whole fear mongering about protecting from evil spirits too. But in the wild, holly, the holly there is a plant for the job. The needles on its leaves, they distract lightning from hitting an oak. So if you've got the holly by the oak, and the oak's the most vulnerable tree in the forest for lightning, put the holly there, And the little needles, funnily enough, act as a conductor, and they can actually save an oak. What have I got here? No holly and ivy, mistletoe and a hose before the point of solstice. Don't bring any green in before the point of solstice. That's supposed to be the tradition. And a lot of traditions say, well, you can't bring the ivy in without the mistletoe being there. And the mistletoe must never, ever touch the ground. Let's give it mistletoe on the tree there. It mustn't touch the ground when harvested, catch in a blanket, and that's where it falls. And the hanging of the mistletoe being for bonding. It's the bonding of male holly with a female ivy. And it's said that a mistletoe berry is picked for every kiss that's shared under the mistletoe. Anyway, I'm going to leave the... there's a Norse Freya story of mistletoe, but I'll share that in case someone tries to do it. No, I'm not going to share it, because if someone tries to do it at home, well, that's it. I'm going to leave the solstice greenery. And because we got... Well, Maura, we seem to have lost the signal with Maura. Are you back? Yeah, Maura's back. And we're going to have your poem on in a minute or two. Let's get myself into position here. I don't think we got any more comments. Donna Johnson, fascinating stories. Thank you. Great. Yes. So, right. Maura. Yes, let's get Maura on. And since she's got the signal back again, we had lost her for a minute. Maura Barrett. She came on with beautiful poetry last time as a guest, so it's an absolute delight to have Maura back again. So let's say hello and welcome to Maura Barrett. Hello, Maura. Maui, are you there? There she is. Hello. I've got my earphones on, haven't I? How are you doing? Good afternoon. Hello. Any
Hi,
voice
John.
that we get? We got the signal. We got your voice. Great. Right, there we go. I know that you've got a real challenge with the signal, but let's see how we can see if we can get through with this. And if not, we'll try and get your poems in the front of people. But of course, it's the performed poem that is the supreme. So let's see how we manage with this. And thank you for being with us to share your poems. I think we're having a struggle. Yeah, we're not getting through, unfortunately. Oh. So sad. You said there would be a bit of a problem. I think we might have to let this one go and maybe try. We are doing a first footing one next Sunday. So maybe if you can be available in a better signal. I'm so sorry, because it was a lovely lead-in to what I'm just about to present. So have a lovely solstice. Sorry we can't have the two-way conversation. And sorry for any disappointment, but it was lovely. At least we saw you. All the best and lots of love. We'll see you again. Right. Well, that's I know there was a struggle. She did warn me that there might be a signal problem, Maura Barrett, but we'll try and get her on next Sunday. Now, before I actually leave this, because I'm getting very close to the hour, I think. Yes, there we go. And we're not doing too bad at all. And the big thing at the moment, I think, with a lot of people is the Jupiter-Saturn alignment. And so if I can pick up a few pictures for that, a few words about this amazing phenomenon that I have kind of joked about online. There's this meme that's going around, it's the first time for 800 years, but for a lot of people, there might be a cloud over the sky tomorrow night. The actual forecast is not bad for here. We've got a showery, cloudy solstice sunrise forecasted here tomorrow. And I think, unfortunately, Newgrange is sit on with that at the moment. But as the day goes on, it's supposed to become quite sunny and clear. So it should be clear for Ireland tomorrow night to get this phenomenon, this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. But it's not just tomorrow. The influence is over a wide peak. Anybody who does the astrology, they know it's not. There's not a sort of a set moment. There's not a conversion. There is a slow transition that fills into it. But before I go into the solstice timing around here, strictly, as I say, it's not one day. The sunset itself is being set at the same time for about 12 days up until tomorrow. So the sunset stays still for 12 days up until tomorrow. And also for 3 days after. Hence, I think probably why we have a Christmas Day. They say 3 days later. Sunrise stays still at the same time for 15 days after. So you got this 15-day business from 12 days before now up until Christmas Day. And then from the solstice, you've got the sunrise that's still for 15 days up until Epiphany. So you have those 3 days from the solstice to pretty much Christmas Day where there's no movement. And I think that's the big part of the celebration. So from Christmas Day evening, the sunset starts getting later, but the morning sunrise doesn't get early until the Epiphany. If that all makes any kind of sense, I haven't got any diagrams for that. Anyway, I got some more geek info for you. The moment of solstice is 10:02 a.m. in the morning here. The exact moment of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is 6:38 p.m. in the evening. So that's about 8 hours, 8.5 hours after the solstice moment. And it's happening, and this is what's got people excited, 0 degrees, 51 minutes into Aquarius is when the peak conjunction moment happens. Anyway, there's good viewing. Let's get some pictures up. Clear evenings now until the Wednesday evening, the 23rd of December. And the best viewing is for an hour and 30 minutes after sunset. And for about 30 minutes after an hour after sunset. And that's near where the sunset actually happens. So look on your southwestern sky. The conjunct will look like two separate dots, with Jupiter being the far bright one. Let's see if I got something here. You've probably seen that. That's pretty much what it would look like. They may be closer together. When I've been looking, they look a bit closer together than in that sky. I suppose it had to be, to get a photograph, it had to be an earlier day, didn't it? But here in Ireland, the best viewing time tomorrow, 4:40 to 5:30 each evening, and for the UK too. So look for it 4:40 to 5:30 from now until Wednesday. Good chance of us seeing here. Might be this evening. It might not cloud over, so we might see it this evening. Tomorrow evening, I think definitely, and Tuesday evening, it's great. I think the only time we're going to be disappointed with the cloud over will be the Monday evening. So there's lots of definitions of this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, from the upbeat to the fear-mongering, end-of-the-world stuff, of course. I've totally forgotten the sky observations. Really, if you they're into it's mapping. It's a craft of mapping and navigation. It isn't actually a puppeteering kind of thing, which is a lot of clairvoyants and fortune tellers might tell you. So even so, the images of Jupiter and Saturn together for me are like two keys. The way I imagine it, because you take the astrological imagery from Saturn and the imagery from Jupiter, to me it's like playing two keys next to each other. You tried that on a piano. Play the two keys next to each other. That reminds me of Jupiter and Saturn. Or maybe a simpler definition, like a fart in a spacesuit. So Saturn, with the symbolism of structure, configuration, and conformity, is there with Jupiter with a symbolism of break free, no limits, larger than life. Has anybody been watching the just released Wolf Walkers? Excellent animation brought to by the cartoon studio. Wonderful work that they do, Song of the Sea and Spirit of Kells. And in Wolf Walkers, there's Cromwell, the Lord Protector, with his insistence on servitude, conformity, and banishing anything in the way of that. And then there's his hunter's daughter, who senses life and what's going on with the flow. And that's very much the running theme through that film. And though there is a beautiful underlying theme in this is the theme in most of the cartoon saloon movies, I find it. They've got that running theme of the conformity, even Book of Kells. It's the monastery and the walls, and build the walls higher, keep the Vikings out. And then there's the ashling and the freedom of all that. So I think that's the theme of theirs. And many folks seem to be proclaiming the solstice conjunction event is the start of the age of Aquarius. And again, I don't think there's an exact point. Let's see if I can get this one up. Here you go. There it is. The two of them there, if you take the imagery of the Jupiter and Saturn, just here there with its 029 into Aquarius. And many people you think this, well, some people thought the age of Aquarius started in 1844. And there's been all kinds of events since then, and people have been pronouncing, it's the start of the age of Aquarius. There was a lot in the 60s about that, but these changes are traditional, get it right, should take them more water, transitional things, not dated events. And one thing I think many of us have become aware of course, is the reaction to the COVID, unfortunately. And several seem to have gone into conspiracy journeys, and they're wanting a new order, and that seems quite Saturn. And others have followed with the flow of realigning themselves. Beautiful stories of what people have been doing, looking at their gardens, looking at their woodlands, looking at their communities, the forestry, energy saving, animal work, all this contemplating and writing about it too. To me, that's very Jupiter. But you might, as an astrologer, you might define it the other way around. But I think it's interesting seeing, I shouldn't do an us and them, but it's interesting watching those two approaches. Is what is this new normal? What is all this conspiracy? Are we being puppeteered into this? Or, wow, there's this stuff we've been promising ourselves for years. So that's my rant. But another fascination that's in some studies of astrology, that any planets beyond Saturn are ignored, as they are not seen with the naked eye. So 10 signs are shared as a negative or positive with 5 of the planets. And Cancer gets the moon, Leo gets the sun. But what this does here, and bring this back up again, is this the right one? I think it is. And so this gives the Pisces negative Jupiter, because Jupiter, if it doesn't have, if Pisces doesn't have, it doesn't have Neptune, which is what modern astrologers have done. It's the negative Jupiter, and Capricorn has the negative Saturn. But here they are in conjunction, sitting in Aquarius, in between the two, in between the Capricorn and the Pisces. And Aquarius is actually the positive Saturn. Anyway, interpret that as you will, but I find that fascinating that there they are sitting between those two. So my summing up of all this, I think, is mapping, a delightful mapping for transition from the darkening part of the annual cycle back into the increasing light part of the new cycle. And then we'll have substantial fertility, lots of new growth taking place, and Jupiter can influence opportunities. Saturn, perhaps, with Jupiter sitting there, can prevent the temptation of greed. Stagnation, hopefully, will be discouraged, and so will be wasted excess, or excess wastage. Anyway, excuse me. Overall, I think this is a lovely influence. This Jupiter-Saturn thinks a lovely influence on Earth warriors. Lovely mapping for them, where they can see the way, motivation for us to be more community rather than compete for individualism. And I think we can live with that. Do you? Anyway, let's see what you've got to say. I think that's enough of my rant for that. I'm looking forward to seeing Wolf Walkers, but it's not available. Apple, if you can get hold of Apple TV, obviously that plays on an Apple device. If anybody has upgraded their phone in the last year or so, you've got a free year anyway. You're welcome to. If not, and you can get hold of an Apple, there's a 7-day free period. I don't know. I don't think it's gone to any of the streaming services, but it will very soon. Well worth it. And of course, the best of all, although there are restrictions, but if there is very good kind of, how can I say, is keeping people separate. Local cinema, you can't be the big screen for that if you can get to do that, but you'll all get around to that. And there's Donna, fascinating stories. Thank you. So where do we stand now? Now, during these, I'm coming, we're sort of running out, aren't I? Oh, we're not too bad, 5 past, better than I am usually. Well, during these Sunday sessions, there was always a lot that I leave out, and partially to make room for the guests, and we had absolutely delightful guests today, didn't we? I've got something, I know what I got there, right. So now, as you know, each week I say I'm creating the She, Water and Tree folklore. Hope to get some of the course tutorials out in January. And a lot of the stuff that I cut out is going to be in those tutorials. And for a while, I'm not charging actual course fees, but I invite you to subscribe to the course. And to do that, I'm doing this through the Patreon. And this... I should have my Patreon link here. There we go. A bit of publicity there. You can do this through the Patreon page for the course, £1, euro, or $1 a month or more. And the links also over the Cailleach Cottage website. And the Cailleach Labyrinth Gardens, these Sunday sessions, I have to pay subscriptions so I can give you these photographs and all the rest of it. And this is helped by your subscriptions, donations, and keeps the whole thing going. So I thank you for your support. Several of you there are already subscribers that are watching regularly. And thank you, because it does enable me to continue and share these projects on a bit of a shoestring, really. Anyway, the upcoming course media will always be increasing: podcasts, videos, slides, ebooks, and then we'll get together in little Zoom circles later on. And there'll be some optional projects and assignments for you to have a go at. And I'll message you more when you subscribe. So thank you for being subscribers and keeping this show going. One more look at the comments here. Sherry, thank you so much for all you do. And thank you for often being on board, Sherry. Thank you so much. Let's get rid of that at the moment because I've got some more stuff. Sunday sessions, as I say, next Sunday. We've got back to some pictures here. We've got preparing for first footing, and I'm going to have wassailing as well, which I had to cut out a couple of weeks ago. Wassailing is really from Epiphany, blessing the apple trees as well. But the Scottish first footing is quite a variation. But I think we can all engage in what first footing really means. So more of that, that's going to be next December. I won't have all the gear, so this is going to be very casual on the 27th. Bit different from the first footing traditions that faded away. Anyway, it's a lot to do with our affirmations and how we share, and a lot to do with our fellowship with one another. Anyway, 3rd of January, that's going to be a Sunday sessions, casual session, introduction to the year ahead. I'm going to be changing things about. Hopefully we'll have more guests, and more of the stuff I've been talking about will be transferring to the course, so that I don't go from an hour, hour and a half to 2.5 hours, which could happen with the way stuff's mounting up. So we'll go through this first week, 3rd of January. And then on the following one, if I've got that, we've got divination. This is not going to be the Owen divination. It's going to be divination in general. That's going to be on the 10th of January. So one more last look to see what you're all saying here. And we got Sherry, stories are so precious, thank you. And then Kate, ancestors emigrated from your area 150 years ago. None of these stories, precious to me. And the one thing about the stories as well, and I do get questioned of it because I wasn't born in Ireland, obviously. And so I was picking up stories from various places. certainly Yorkshire. I was in Somerset for 4 years and lived a race family on the Inner Hebrides, Isle of Mull. Picked up a lot from there and had retreats. You see where the berg and the waterfall I showed you earlier, we actually had retreats where we actually slept behind the waterfalls in the caves there. And there's sort of baguano that's thousands of years old. It's like a springy mattress. So I was picking those stories. And then Donegal, I used to cycle a lot here because I employed, in the 70s, I employed men from Sligo and Donegal. And I would come over. There was a boat that ran from the Hebrides and Auburn, and it would take men backwards and forwards to Ireland. So I put my bike. It was like a hovercraft type of thing. And I would go around and pick up the stories. And it was amazing. If you get the boat from the Inner Hebrides to Donegal, it's as if the two countries are the same. So my stories are a fusion of a time, I think. You know, Scotland is really a new name. Ireland is quite a new name. This was Scotia once upon a time to some people. It was Eriu to other people. And so you got this mergence, and I must admit, that's how my stories are, that I do tend to merge what I've been told by storytellers. So I'm not very good with the books. And I suppose I've been doing this since about 6 years old, picking this stuff up. So thank you for your appreciation of that. Good morning from Boston, Kimberly. And thanks for catching up. So I better go. Wish you all a lovely, fabulous solstice and through the Christmas and whatever fellowship you're managing to do. Thank you again to Susan Farrell, Fergus Hogan, and the delightful Maura, who was kind of miming there. And thank you. It was lovely to see you, even though we might not have heard you. And let's get back to something very serious here. So thank you again, all of you. Please keep, those of you just watching now and people that are watching the archives, keep commenting here after it's live. I'm going to keep looking. I'll answer your comments. Please subscribe. There's bell icons, I think, both on Facebook and YouTube now. And that will remind you of details of the Sunday sessions coming up. Thank you again. Enjoy a safe week full of wonder, inspiration, all through your celebrations and enchantments. Happy and blessed celebration for your Yule tomorrow. The moment again, 10:02 here, 10:02 in the morning, 2:02 in the morning for Pacific people, Mountain Time 3:02, Central 4:02, Eastern 5:02. So until next Sunday, play well, and it's, if I get it, it's bye from me. Bye-bye.